All right, guys, so we're going to tie a big fly. And don't take this in the wrong context. This technique, the hollow fly technique, is something that can be used in smaller designs, but it truly shines and comes to life as the flies get bigger because it allows you to get the maximum volume, the maximum bulk, and it's all an illusion because it makes the flies huge in the water but unbelievably castable in the air. So this is the Bob Popovics hollow fly technique. I'm going to break the technique down, give you guys the clearest demonstration I can, go over just a few fly design principles, and then maybe just talk about why it's awesome. So I'm Gunnar Brammer with Brammer's Custom Flies. I just got some sick whiting schlappen bundles from Muskie Full Fly Fishing in the mail today, so I'm feeling in a musky mood. We're going to tie up a big musky single. Now, as this fly grows in size, well, our little bucktail, sorry, there's hair all over that. Well, our little bucktail deceiver techniques and even our bulkhead techniques aren't going to get us the volume we need to make this fly proportional. Now, I mentioned this technique can be tied on a single hook, 5-inch format. The hollow fly is going to get even more volume with less bucktail. That's going to have even more movement in the water. It's a fantastic technique, but it truly shines, in my opinion, on the large scale format. So I'm going to tie in my tailing materials here, and then I'm going to execute these hollow ties. And what you're going to see is as I progress up the shank, just like our bucktail deceiver, just like our bulkhead, the stacks are going to get closer together as we move up. I'm going to use more or less the same hair throughout. I'm going to use my premium hair here, and I'm going to control the angle that the hair is set at. Where this first stack might be 30 degrees, this next one might be like 40, this next one might be 45, 50, but they're going to continually get slightly steeper and more open. And I'm going to show you how to control how open they are as you progress up the shank. And then we're actually going to finish it with a hidden bulkhead. Let's dive in. Bob Popovics hollow fly. So we're going to dive in and do the first hollow. I'm going to select hair from the sweet spot. This is going to have a medium amount of flare, but it's going to have some stiffness that's going to allow us to set an angle without it collapsing and doing a bunch of weird things. It's not going to be too stiff that we have to use a boatload of thread, and it's not going to be too soft and have too much air that it's going to collapse. We're going to get medium stiffness. This also happens to be maximum length. Going to be very sparse, maybe only 20 fibers. Now on the bucktail deceiver and the bulkhead, I usually leave in a lot of the short hairs because the short hairs build up the volume, right? That's one of the ways it works. You build up volume through density, so you keep all the small fibers. And a hollow fly, those little things, those little short fibers, don't do anything. So get them all out of there because the volume is obtained from the hollow fly technique, not through the layers of bucktail supporting each other. Now, I got that cleaned out. I got all of the small fibers pulled out of there. I'm going to cut this perfectly flush and tie this in backwards. I'm going to use the Giovanni pinch, get it nice and tight. Once it's on, I'm going to take perfectly perpendicular thread wraps. You're going to notice this is a mirror image of my bulkhead demonstration, but instead of hollow flying bucktail butts, we're hollow flying the tips to get the maximum volume. I'm going to keep light tension on the bobbin, thumb on top. Pinch the sides, pinch the top and bottom, pinch the sides. You're getting the hair to move all the way around, perfectly even, just like the bucktail deceiver. Nice hard pull, smooth, don't jerk it. Look at that flare. We have a good amount of flare, but it's not super springy, but we have a good amount of flare so we can control it. We can reverse it, but it still has some of that stiffness in there. Now I'm going to take perpendicular wrap, perpendicular wrap. So I have the same thread path 5 times. I pulled out all the slack and I have a crazy high degree of tension on this. I'm going to switch hands, keep that bobbin locked. Don't ever let it slip. Take your fingers, make that little cone with your fingertips. There are push tools that will do this that are quite handy, but I just want to show you how to do it without, just a bobbin and some scissors. That's all we've used so far in this series. And I'm smashing that hair. I'm just trying to control it. I'm going to switch hands. That bobbin is still locked, still under a lot of pressure. I'm going to bring that back. My thread is going to go straight parallel with my hook shank. It's going to touch that hook shank. I'm going to wrap it up a few wraps, wrap it back a few wraps. So those 5 wraps holding all that hair can't move. They can't budge. This hair can't pull out. Nothing can happen to this. Only 5 turns. That's all you ever need. Now, I'm going to build up a little ball of thread in front of this. You can just start building a cone. The problem is a lot of times the thread will collapse off the cone. I have kind of better luck building a thread ball so that as I use my controlling wraps here, they can't collapse because this thread ball is in the way. So I have a big bump in front of this, and just like the bulkhead, I'm going to draw more thread than I need. Reference the thread control video on controlling tension. I'm going to lock that bobbin, and I'm going to tie with lighter thread than what my bobbin would allow for, and I'm just going to walk those down. Now see, it's just slipped a little bit. I went back to my thread base, pulled out more thread. Now I don't want to collapse it too much. I want some volume in this fly. That's going to be good. I'm going to come back onto my base. Now there's a few key elements there. One, you have to tie with less tension than your bobbin because you're controlling this cone that goes over those butts. If you pull too hard, you'll cinch them all down, suck it straight down to the hook shank, reflare everything, you've lost all the volume. So you have to keep that cone nice and soft. The second thing is you have to keep that cone nice and symmetrical as you go up. Your bobbin cannot go back to front or front to back, or else you're going to build up more pressure on one side, and when you look down your hollow fly, instead of being symmetrical, it's going to be collapsed and flared or collapsed and flared. You can't have that. You want symmetrical. So you have to draw this perfect circle that progresses forward and back under light pressure. So I'm going to take a small progression forward. That progression forward is going to be the taper that I get in the tips because we're going to use the same length hair. So I'm just going to stage it, and as I progress, it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're going to create this layer of bucktail that's going to breathe and lay over each other, which is why you can do it so sparse. And we're always trying to create this flush face so that when I turn this backwards, let me show you exactly how this works. When I turn this backwards, I have a clean, flush, perfectly vertical wall of bucktail. It's perfectly vertical. It doesn't have an angle to it like this or like this. My thread wraps are perfectly in plane, perpendicular to that hook. Absolutely critical so that my cone is pushing against a flush wall of hair, not an angled wall of hair, or else you're going to have to adapt your cone angle to fix it. So if you create one problem, you have to solve it with another problem. If you can tie it in perfectly and you can make a perfect cone, you're always going to have perfect symmetry for every fly you tie. Built up my thread ball right in front of that stack, and I'm just going to watch this. I'm going to pull out thread, tie with less pressure than I need, and I'm going to watch as my circle collapses that hair. And I'm just going to try to get a nice separation of fibers while increasing the angle of that hair. I'm going to step down, walk it down my thread base, maybe tie in some flash or super glue. But that's all you need for your hollow fly. Proper spacing, get denser towards the hook eye, increase the volume towards the hook eye. The more you trust the flare, the more the hair is going to breathe. Tie in sparse. That first stack, 20 fibers. The second stack, 20 fibers. The finishing stacks, maybe 30. Count them, 30. I'm going to leave you guys here. I'm going to finish this fly in the next video, which is going to be the hidden bulkhead, which is just a bulkhead with a hollow fly combined together, or it's a reverse bulkhead, however you want to classify it. But that is Bob Popovics hollow fly. Thanks for watching.